where did the name Alphabet Soup come from?
I think you can answer that better. From my experience, I think me and Ray have very different stories on this. Ray came to me with the name, like he just sent it to me randomly. To me, I think the name means something different than him, but for the most part, it's almost like a random name.
I think I was driving home from work and I just kind of thought of it because I didn't know which direction we were going to be taking the sound of the group at the time. So I just wanted something like sort of ambiguous, but also, I guess, like innocent, so that we could explore different avenues and it wouldn't just be like tied to one sort of genre or one sort of like idea. It could just be like a mix of stuff. So kind of like Alphabet Soup, you know? It's just kind of be like just a mix of everything if we wanted to explore sort of different avenues.
That's like very similar to how I view it too, actually, now I think about it. Because Alphabet Soup to me is not like it's not like this big like pile. And Alphabet Soup is like this one like melting pot of like ideas, and it doesn't really have any sort of like uniformity. I think the sound is very consistent, but I think in terms of what we can take with it, I think that's pretty much limitless. I like to think that me and Ray both have like a pretty good grasp on like all parts of the group. We all creatively influence everything with it. Me and Ray, we both wear our influences on our sleeve, like with like anything that we've made. This isn't our first project musically or even creatively. So I think that we both really enjoy letting other people influence us as well. Every song you could pretty much, for every song that we have on the EP, you could find another song and that we took something from or that we were inspired from something. I think the most obvious choice is Beth Gibbons, which is like, in a way, like a tribute to Machine Gun by Portishead. In one way, like almost a blatant ripoff.
Yeah. And
I think some might call that, I don't know, how would people want to call it? I think some would maybe call it like a little lazy, but
this is fair.
But the truth is though that me and Ray really just like, we like other music. We listen to a lot of music. We talk about music all the time. Music's like our favorite thing. So I think it'd be a little disingenuous if we weren't inspired by a lot of different artists. So, I mean, we can name artists. We can name Portishead. We can name Death Grips. We can name JPEG Mafia. But the truth is, the influences stem a lot greater than that.
What roles did each member of the group play in making the album?
So I took up most of the writing portion just because I knew Fabian had been like doing a lot of his own side project stuff, and he had done a lot of production stuff as well. And he also did a lot of like the writing for some of his like previous work that he had done on his own. But I had been doing a lot of production stuff, but I had never really written anything, and so he sort of came to me and wanted me to do a lot more of like the writing aspect of the project. So I'd say I'd made up about, what was it, like 75?
I'd say 80%.
Like 75 to 80% of like the lyrics I wrote, and that was mainly based off of beats or like demos that Fabian had already made. And so I kind of just took the structures of those demos and then just kind of wrote over top of that, and then a couple of them sort of evolved over time into songs that sound like almost completely different from like the originals, but for the most part it was pretty consistent, and then it was just adjusting sound and kind of style over the course of the EP.
As far as Ray's role goes, I think that he's kind of selling himself short because he wrote most of it. I only wrote one song by myself. And Ray, there's not a single thing else in the EP that's like not written by Ray or not touched by Ray in some way. He's also done like a lot of behind the scenes stuff that a lot of people don't really get to see right now, like the website that I may or may not be allowed to talk about right now. But he does a lot
Soon.
more. Yeah, he does a lot more than I think a lot of people see it at the face value. It's hard enough to make the sounds for an EP, but it's even harder to write it. But my role was just making the production and doing a lot of the vocals. Ray also lends his vocals on That's a Lie. And he does a bunch of ad libs too. My main role was like on the creatively was just making the instrumentals and producing most of it. So a lot of all the mixing is me. Any mastering, any beats, those are all done by me with sounds taken from Ray.
What were some of the challenges in putting this entire EP together?
I'd say a good portion of the challenges sort of came in wrapping everything together and just trying to sort of looking to strike gold towards like the very end and just sort of putting everything, wrapping everything up into like a nice little bow and trying to find like a consistent sound throughout like the whole EP, because initially even I thought that it seemed a little scattered and all over the place, but it seems like we both had like a cohesive idea of what the sound of the album was gonna be like, I think towards the end.
It was just a matter of getting there.
Yeah. I think it was just a matter of getting there and trying to be clear with how everybody wanted to interpret like the songs in it, especially even from like a writing standpoint as well. I think we all wanted to be clear on like what the ideas were that were laid out on a lot of the tracks, not only just for like sound but also from writing as well. So I feel like that took a little bit longer than I think we both thought, but we got there in the end, I would say.
I think it's one thing to like say you're gonna make a project. It's a completely other thing to actually like go through with it and finish it.
Yeah,
I think
true.
In itself the challenge was even making it to begin with, because not a lot of people, at least in my eyes, have like the drive to do a lot of things like that creatively. You know, putting money into something that you know is probably not going to make any money. But that wasn't the point for me or Ray. I think the point was to just make something that we both enjoyed. And if other people enjoyed it, that was cool. I think I finished Replicant like 3 days before we sent it in for streaming services and got it approved.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like that song was like very last minute. We're both happy with it, with everything. There's like people, or a lot of artists say like an album's like never done, technically, and I guess that's kind of true. But with what we have, I think we're both happy with the product.
How did each of you start getting into music?
I mean, I had sort of been doing music like sort of my whole life. I mean, my dad was a musician from when he was a kid, and he had been playing drums for most of his life since he was like a kid and since he was like 10 or so. He never really did it in high school like I did, or like really went all the way through it and sort of tried to make it into like a career, but it was always something that he was passionate about, and he knew that he always wanted to sort of pass that down onto me and then sort of have me be super involved musically. Even if I didn't make it into a career necessarily, he always wanted it to be like a passion of mine at some point, you know. I guess that was sort of what got me into learning how to play drums and getting into like music production as well. And then for this EP, like even doing writing and stuff like that, which was new to me before. It's just sort of been like a life process for me in trying to find my sound and what exactly I'm interested in musically. It's been involved in my life, I know, for like a majority of it. So it's just something I grew up with.
I think that's something that really like brings out, and you could probably see that a lot in what we made too. I've been doing music production for the past 5 years, I think 5-6 years, since I was a freshman in high school. I started with like GarageBand or like whatever on like the school PC, and then eventually moved on and started making beats on like FL Studio on like a cracked version I got from my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still use the exact same version of FL Studio. It's FL Studio 8, and they're like on 20 now, I think. So I'm very much behind. Yeah, he's 8.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I use 8. Literally on 20. It kind of sounds cheesy to say it, but like music is like something that I think I can say this about me and Ray. It's like something that we both kind of need to do, or at least need to be connected to in some way. So I'd say that I'd agree that like it's kind of been like a life thing. I've always liked music since I was a little kid. I've had like little playlists on YouTube, and I'd make it filled with like 200 songs because that was the limit at the time. And it would just be a bunch of random stuff. It would be like Japanese music. It'd be like, you know, hip hop. It'd be pop. It'd be like, you know, crappy 2000 songs that I listened to when I was a kid. Yeah. And, you know, that all pushed me to do music as like a hobby that I did consistently. And I guess now as like a I don't want to say job. It's kind of weird to call it a job. It's like something that I could potentially make something out of, I guess.
Yeah.
Something that I could take seriously, I guess you could say. If you love something so much, I think it's only natural that you'd want people to see that and feel that in whatever you create, whether it's serious, not serious, or something that you enjoy. I mean, if you put anything out there, you're looking for some sort of validation, whether you know it or not. Me and Ray are pretty honest about that.
You just touched on my next question, but where do you plan on taking your music career?
I don't know. I wouldn't even call it a career at this point.
Our
level, music passion, then. Where do you plan on
passion.
taking your passions?
I don't know if I would necessarily want to make it my main career, because I still have a deep interest in doing film and stuff like that. Definitely, if this sort of does take off in the future, I'd probably be like interested in pursuing it as sort of just like a side thing. But I mean, you know, my passion is still to be in like the film industry and doing other art side projects as well. And so, but if this takes off, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to just saying like, no, I'm not gonna do it, because I am still passionate about making music in general. So whether or not it's like profitable, I guess I don't really, that's not really like the biggest concern. It's just like, you know, hoping that people enjoy it, other than just like the two of us, I guess.
I think I would agree with that. I think me and Ray have very similar views on that. Because, I mean, while music is one of our biggest passions, it's not the career choice that we have picked out. We didn't go into making this like, we want to be famous, we want to make all this money off of it. I mean, like, what's it, Nick Cage was like, being a musician nowadays is like working at a 7-Eleven. You know, you make like the same salary, you live relatively the same life. You know, you have enough to buy stuff, but you know, that was never the end game though for us, like musically. I think it was always like, we want to have fun, we want to put this thing out there. If people like it, they do. Like Ray, with film, I still want to pursue a career in journalism, and that's what I spend a lot of my other time doing, is writing and doing stuff like that. For the most part, yeah. If this takes off, then, you know, who wouldn't want to do it? Who wouldn't want to make music, you know, something that we both clearly enjoy and like doing a lot, you know? Who wouldn't want to do it? I would take that opportunity for sure. But I'd also do it in the back of my head, kind of knowing that there's other things out there that I do want to accomplish, and that this is, in a way, almost like a stepping stone. You know, I could do music for 10 years, quit, do my other career, go back, flip-flop, you know, depending on how things work out, you know. In a perfect world, I guess you could say.
Raymond, your career of choice is filmmaking. Have you considered scoring your own films?
You know, that's a good question.
I've done scores,
you know,
for short films.
That's true, actually. Yeah,
I need scores.
He's done
from myself.
I know Fabian's done like some film score stuff for like some of our other friends who have made like short films in high school, and then like a couple in college as well. But yeah, I feel like I would be interested in that. I don't think I would want to take on. I don't think I would want to take on like a film score just on my own as like a solo project necessarily. Like I would love to have people around me that I could pick and choose from, that sort of I've been influenced from, or that I find or like respect in the industry, who are great musicians. I feel like I would want that sort of freedom to be able to put together sort of like an ensemble of my choosing that I could do, and then make a soundtrack based off of that I've sort of curated based off of the film. But I mean, if it was like my own film, then I feel like I would probably want to at least try.
So how long have you been working on the EP?
It's kind of hard to answer that, because some of the instrumentals are like over a year old. Like, I know for a fact Replicant, I made that when I was doing my solo work under that different name. Replicant was made like a long time ago, like probably during like very early quarantine, or maybe even before. But that was the song that I always wanted to put on that project, but I never found a space for until Alphabet Soup. I made the instrumental for Beth Gibbons like earlier this year, like at the beginning of 2021. And everything else just kind of jigsaw fell into place really as we were making it, you know. So you could argue Alphabet Soup has been brewing for like years. But as far as like consistent work, it really started in like during 2021. Me and Ray cycle through a lot of projects all the time. We do a lot of stuff. Yeah. This is just like our most serious in a while. we've really taken it. But me and Ray have been doing projects for many, many years. We've been friends for a really long time.
I would say like officially like around the time period would probably be like spring. Like we had talked about doing some stuff, and then I know Fabian had sent me a couple demos that we were talking about doing like maybe a project or two during summer when we had a lot more free time. I think that was when we finally kind of cracked down and we're like, okay, well, if we're going to do this, then we might as well start now and have it out by the end of summer, if not by the end of the year at the latest. But I'm glad it worked out in that way so that, you know, we could possibly end up doing like other things by the end of the year as well.
We pushed it out like decently fast. Not that that affects the quality.
Yeah.
Or anything. I think, you know, it's still a pretty high quality piece of music. Mm-hmm. I mean, for God's sake, it's only 5 songs. You know, if we like shout out like 10 songs, then I'd be like kind of afraid. But you know, all the songs they have a lot of effort put into them. Whether, you know, we work so well together. I think that we're able to make songs maybe a little more quickly than they do in like with other labels or other people. We like going in with very clear ideas and like concepts, and then, you know, we already knew what we were going to talk about with a lot of the songs, which I'm not sure if Ray wants to share, but
that's true.
But like we want to talk about like politics, we want to talk about other people, we want to talk about one of the songs about death, like, you know. Yeah. We had those ideas, and it was just a matter of placing them all around.
From like a writing perspective, I knew I was sort of it was sort of a little bit easier to write just because mainly because of like being cooped up inside for like a lot of the time and not being able to go out to too many places. There was like a lot of deeper thought that sort of went into a lot of the subject matter of some of the songs, whether it be like politics or songs about like death, like especially on like the last track as well, which I know Fabian put a lot of effort into sort of like the message of that one as well. There's just like a lot of darker topics on it that I think were sort of stemmed from like us just sort of being inside and secluded for a lot of last year and also a decent majority of this year as well, and sort of just being able to think about those ideas a little bit and just having like so much time.
Do you want your future projects to branch out into different types of sounds, or are you trying to stick to sounds surrounding this certain EP?
We get this question a lot, actually.
Yeah, that's actually true.
Like from like other friends. The truth is Alphabet Soup doesn't really have like a consistent sound. I think that we want to be able to...
From a genre perspective.
When I first came to Ray with the idea, for the most part, I was just like, oh, let's make like electronic music. But like, because that spectrum is so broad, that there's a lot we could do with it. So instead of electronic, we did like industrial stuff. We did like, I guess you could even say hip hop stuff. We meshed a lot of ideas together. Mm-hmm. But as far as branching out is concerned, I mean, we do have plans for like an album where we do branch out in sound, and we're having some pretty crazy ideas right now, and we want to work with like a lot of different people who can get us there. Do
you have a feel for your band's genre?
I like this question a lot, actually, because whenever we're asked this question, we have a very difficult time answering it like competently. There was a lady once from like, we were at like a thrift store in like San Diego, and a lady asked us what genre we made. And me and Ray just like laughed. Yeah. And we like skirted past the question because like we weren't exactly sure how to answer it like earnestly. I don't know. I think the truth about Alphabet Soup is that there is not really a genre. Like if you can look at the genre that it says like on Apple Music, and it's like probably like IDM experimental.
So Alphabet Soup is A through Z.
Sure, it's A through Z. If you want to be funny about it.
Yeah, I would say it's just like. I'd say it's more of like a sonically consistent sound than it is like a genre specific sound.
When you listen to it, you can tell it's often the same people. The nice thing is like kind of challenging people. A lot of people are, not to sound like pretentious or anything, but like a lot of people are very used to like the same kind of stuff. And maybe with our music, you get to hear something that you don't hear every day. At the end of the day, I think that's what we want the most. I told Ray this before. I said like my dream is to like get like a DM from somebody and it'd just be like, your music's weird. And I'd be like, thank you.
Yeah, let me do that real quick.
Yeah,
I'd be like, thank you.
I feel like all my questions are answered, but do you have anything else you want to address?
Thank you for listening.
Yes.
Yes, you do. We appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the album.
Shout out to everybody who helped us with the album, though.
Yes.
Hayden, who
Thank
shot the cover.
Mhm.
Jacob, who's behind the camera right now. Alex Paz, who helped us, who gave us his camera, $2,000
Yes.
camera to film. Ray's parents for letting us film in their house. My parents for also letting us film in the house. A lot of people. It's a big group effort, and we had a lot of help. So thank you.